cord to this computer? All right, Gustavo, give us the game. Tell us what's your question, situation, or challenge.
Nice. Yes, I have a situation challenge rather than a question. And it's regarding an entrepreneurship activity that I've decided recently to start working for, that is kind of merging my two main backgrounds, because I've been working in the crypto industry, social impact for the last 6, 7 years. But also personally, I'm coming from really Catholic family, then move out from my home country in Venezuela, then practice another 2, 3 religions. So I'm arriving to a phase in my life in which I kind of see necessary to do some kind of new entrepreneurship movement around building up a Web3 religion or a new technical, decentralized religion that just looks for creating a new collective consciousness that just look forward to promote the growing of the individuals, to promote the growing of collective and societies, try to create a really big and wide framework to different credos, to different beliefs, to different kind of communities together and try to help each other just for redeem ourselves, trying to regenerate humanity from the big issues, wars, hunger, and many bad things that we are seeing there around. So my questions to that will be like, am I too crazy for willing to build a new Web3 religion? It makes sense for people. What are also the challenges and the fears that such a word as a religion can bring just by speaking it out loudly, right? Yeah, like how to build a religious community in a way that can be fun, in a way that we are just sharing here together, but we are just maybe having a common purpose of growing ourselves, maybe supporting each other for our growth. And yeah, I don't want to share more. So if you guys have any clarifying questions, I think this is the time, right? Amaya seems curious to
Indeed.
some questions.
Clarifying questions.
What are you hoping?
What am I hoping?
What are you hoping to accomplish with this religion?
I mean, short term, to build up a community. Medium term, to actually demonstrate and validate that people are growing, that they feel better, that they are more happy in both individual, collective, and maybe even global terms. And in the long term, since we are also talking about Web3 and this new belief that are out there in these networks in which people are creating money out of, again, this collective belief, that will be kind of the ultimate goal to enable this community that we have created before to be economically free, to enable them to build their own their own belief on what new type of money can be, and just build that kind of reward. It's as simple and as complicated as that.
Okay, I've got so many questions.
Please, please.
Why it sounds like you were part of several religions. You said from Venezuela, you had several religious practices in the past. You want to build a community, but you want to also build a religion, and you also want to do a Web3 token. Like for me, what those three things could be completely separate of each other. Like I don't like, why are you bringing them together? Why community plus religion? Like why a new religion? Why not take one of the old ones? And why Web3 at all? Then why are you trying to tokenize faith or belief? That feels like a strange thing to tokenize.
The thing that I see in the space, not only Web3 but also Dirt, it's full of religion. Even Bitcoin is a religion, Ethereum, USD is a religion. Where when I say religions, it's just some artifacts or some mediums that are gathering together a collective belief and making some kind of purpose out of that. Okay, if we are talking about Bitcoin or USD, it's not a divine purpose. That usually is what we understand from religions, that they want to build a collective belief to bridge together the heaven and the earth, the mystic with the material, the spirit with what is around us. So, but I find in money that for so many people, that is actually money and richness is divine. Like people are just longing for having a Lamborghini, for having a yacht and stuff. And this is actually separating humanity from each other. This is creating so many individualistic patterns that we are just disconnecting from each other. We made our own belief in our heads and whatsoever, and the way to interact with people is just through money. So of course, the more money that I will gain, the better I will be, but people just forget about thinking about everyone else and caring about everyone else. Why I'm merging this all together? Because why not? No one else is doing this. And again, it's not that I want to build this token. Actually, the way that I'm starting this up is not for economic reasons, but it's kind of the ultimate goal that I envision for this. Maybe we won't arrive there either, but this was just a way to summarize a little bit for the previous question.
The question I have is, who is this for?
The swirl.
Like who you're so creating the smashing together of Web3 and religion. Who is this for? Like who is this meant to serve?
This is for people that they are not happy with the current system, how it is working in these two different realms. Maybe we can, the way that I see it, to oversimplify that, is like people unhappy with the Web3 environment. Where is this actually going forward? The profit trading things, compliance with governments and so on. And also people that they have their spiritual beliefs, that they do know that something else can be achieved. It's only if we coordinate together to make something better. So this is for people that are realizing what are the problems of having good people around the world that are not coordinating together under the same purpose.
Can you unpack what a bit more about the Web3 side of things? I think all of it, and like what's your initial ideas for what would you be tokenizing? How would it trade? What could you do with it?
Yeah, well, the Web3 for starting up, it will be more about the accountability and what people is actually tributing to this collective. Second one is governance, like how we can assign people soulbound tokens, non-transferable tokens, something that can give them some status in which, okay, I have tribute here, I have proven myself X, Y, and Z to the community, so I will have, let's say, new kind of access to modify things in our credo, in our philosophy, let's say. And yeah, those two are the main points that I would like to start on. Then the third one, if we arrive there, will be about, okay, how we can make this actually to be wealthy in terms of economical activities. I've been working for helping each other people for so long, for growing the community. We now are some kind of solid group, and just in that future is well, we will integrate in also some kind of new economy that I haven't designed it there. I don't have many plans to start doing by myself, because I'm sure that the most people we will have at that stage and the most inclusive we will be, the better that economy will be designed. But this is the last, if not one of the last steps, how I plan to integrate Web3. But again, yes, I'm planning to integrate Web3 from the really beginning, more for reputation, accountability, and governance.
So I noticed that the scope of this is quite like great big. So like if you had to like narrow it down to like what's the question that you're sort of wrestling with that you would like to direct our attention to at this particular moment, what would that sort of scope down to?
Yeah, I'm wondering about what is that first minimal viable product that we can put online and trying to start to have people interacting with this idea. We have AI, we have blockchain, we have a lot of stuff right now that we could play with. So yeah, that's one of the many questions, but it is the one that's.
Do you have
I'm
an
thinking
existing
about, yeah.
community that you can work with on this already?
Not properly. We are 4 people in let's call it a team, just 4 people that we had this conversation in a festival, and we were like, yeah, let's do this together. And I've been also working with other, like, just this last weekend, I met a developer that is interested in that. So we've been discussing a little bit about what possible ideas are there to grow. But I haven't been like properly working in developing a community, just a web page, just really minimal kind of things. I just launched the Twitter account 3 days ago. But there is no proper community. It's a really brand new idea that I'm moving forward. I'm trying to go slow with it.
Yeah, so I think maybe I can phrase my question differently. Do you have a community that you have already identified as your target market, like TDF, where you are? Would that be? It is TDF, isn't it? Yeah. Like, would TDF be a target kind of group for what you're imagining?
It's a target partner for sure. It's not a target group. Like, no, I don't identify that TDF community as a community that will just.
So my question is, why not? Why not though?
I mean,
and if not TDF, can you name another community that's the kind of group that you're imagining using this?
yes, actually, I could. There are a lot of, at least here in Portugal, there are a lot of conscious communities, conscious entrepreneurs that they are working on different ideas, retreat centers, yoga classes, and so on. So yes, I could name them.
Okay, so yoga centers. Okay, I think I get that. Thanks. That's kind of what I was looking for. Existing spiritual communities. Okay, got it.
So if that is and gives us enough surface area to start with, what I'd like to invite Gustavo to do is mute himself. Importantly, listen while he turns off his webcam as well, while we, the wise crowd, have a conversation. So what comes up for you guys in terms of, the question sounded like, what's the first step? I find it quite delightful to think about what's a minimum viable religion. I think that's a funny question. But what comes up for you guys? What is your advice for Gustavo?
Frankly, Jeremy, it's an issue where I don't feel comfortable at all. It's beyond my capacity. So first of all, I cannot play the role of consultant because I'm not into all these I don't know all these entrepreneurship initiatives and right now addressing communities and having religious in the background in the current circumstances is not an issue easy to work on. So I don't know what to. I'm completely out of the context here.
Okay, I can give it I can start maybe. So I actually really think it's a great idea. It took me a while to get my head around my version of it, but I would almost hearing there that it was a operating system for like an online operating system, basically like a CRM for religious groups. And maybe that, but like then kind of leaning more towards decentralization and Web3, and maybe being less dominated by existing religious practices. There's a great company in New Zealand called Pushpay. They came out of a strong Christian movement, and they just built a platform for allowing any religious institution, but it ended up being mostly churches, to run their membership system on there and collect their fees every month and manage that efficiently and bring that kind of modern experience to all the practitioners within that community. So I think that the thing that I do agree that the language used here was almost like intentionally overwhelmingly triggering. And I think that if you're presenting like this kind of stuff in one insight, saying I'm going to start a religion, but then actually we didn't hear anything more than that. It was just like an inflammatory statement, but it kind of ended up being a bit of a distraction, I think. What I see here is that you trying to kind of bring the power of technology to people that have a spiritual practice that are an underserved marketplace, and specifically in the Web3 decentralized space. And I think, yeah, I do think that there's a whole bunch of people here around that I've seen that are kind of have their version of spirituality that are underserved because they're not part of one of these like massively organized existing religious movements. So yeah, I think it's actually quite a good idea. I think that it was very poorly presented. But that's, like I said, that was my version of it, and that was my takeaway.
Yeah, I think there's something as well. Like I think Amaya, I think your feedback is actually quite good, and I think sort of lines up with what Dan is saying as well, in that there's some way in which this frame of reference makes it kind of overwhelming, and like it brings up some form of response that might not be helpful towards the ultimate goal. I think this question of like what's minimum viable religion, like there's something in that I go, okay, that if we can sort of distill it down, if it's possible to distill it down to that essential, what's the most essential minimum viable religion, that might have a label that allows us to offer this thing that might have like all of this lore attached to it, that it might be bigger, but it enables it to be presented in such a way that it's like, no, it's just this thing. It's just that little most essential bit. We don't need to call it necessarily, this essential bit is clearly not a religion, but it is the most essential portion of religion. That might be an interesting place. As I wonder into what is the actual minimum viable religion, like, I think a couple things come in, like there's like this aspect around community and blah, blah, blah. But I think when I think minimum viable religion is just developmental path, right? That to me seems like the most essential. And maybe it's not the most minimal, but it may be the most essential. Anybody else?
I mean, I can just keep on riffing. um, it's interesting that you went, what's the minimum viable religion? But he presented three things, which was a minimum viable web, like tech was what he was asking for at the end, like what's something I could push online. And then there was community and religion. And it's funny because I would say that if you just went and looked around, you would find a shit ton of effort being put into the minimum viable tech for intentional communities. So that's already being done so much. And so it feels like, well, there's already Web3 projects there in that direction. Are you reinventing the wheel by trying to kind of do that, but kind of add this other thing? And I think the interesting thing for me around religion is, yeah, I mean, it's belief, it's a movement. There's so many like ways of, it's harder to break it down. Like community, it's when we talk about community on tech, we're talking about like list of members and all this kind of who's paying when and all this kind of basic management stuff. But when you talk about religion, I mean, is it a learning management system? Like I think like when you start trying to break it down into tech, you lose the point of what it being a religion is, which is a human thing and a human experience. So, but I do recognize that if you could nail it, there is a virility that comes with religion. There's a that you don't get from just going, it's a online platform for communities. You know, like there's a thing when you kind of add in that religious aspect, which can kind of make it into something more. And I think that like places like Inspiral and Micro Solidarity and maybe even Religions Unite are almost trying to like lean into that side of things first, of like, what is it for people to come together, be more than community? What is it for us to kind of have shared beliefs and shared values, more than just like we're a community around, I don't know, like gardening. So I think that for me, intentional communities are already trying to do that. Like they're looking beyond just, it's the community of our street or our school. It's like, it's more than that. So I think that I actually think there's a lot of people doing stuff in this space. And I think that I'll share one more thing, and I think that someone else should talk. I've got an app on my phone called Sweat Wallet, and it uses my pedometer. And as I walk, I mint coins. And so I'm minting Web3 coins as I walk around. And so that's the way that they create currency. They're basically tokenizing sweat. And then you can use the sweat to, you can like put it into investment jars, or you can like spend it on like getting rewards, and you can put it into auctions and stuff. But the idea that they tokenize sweat, and like I was just like, that's actually so interesting. And I wonder, and it just unlocks all these weird things from it, and you're going to do this activity anyway. I didn't hear it there, but I was wondering right at the end of like, what happens if you tokenize faith, or faith as a practice? Like I'm putting time in, I am praying 2 hours today. Can I gamify that with a token? I mean, it seems ludicrous, but I don't know. Like, I mean, I've got a meditation group, and every morning after we do meditation, we do an emoji, and we all give each other like a bit of a pat on the back for the emoji. What if I scored points? Yeah, it's an interesting question there.
Yeah, there's that sounds like fun. The tokenization. There's I lost it. I had an idea, a thought. Now it's gone. So there's this notion from like, so I know Gustavo knows these nerds from EXA, the Economic Space Agency, and PECO with Xorg. You know, those nerds talk about meme, right? That memes have this quality in which they are consumptive, right? You know, so somebody makes a meme and they send it to me, and I look at it, and if it's a good meme, I might send it on, but there's not like an interaction there that is very deep. It's mostly as a consumer of the meme. But games as containers of like ideas, or you know, little mimetic containers, games have this quality in which you interact with them, and then you might pass it on. So in this way, a game that a gene enables us to sort of build the lore or the world of the game collaboratively together. Right? Because I'm interacting with the game, I'm also creating a story that is my play. And I think about it from that perspective, in which like there's a really interesting question, which is like, how might we use that, make use of that idea to like create the expanding like universe, quote unquote, right? What if for religion, what if we say religion has something to do with like creating a story, creating a universe together, and how the process upon which, if that can become this collaborative sort of interaction game of we build the universe together, then that gives me some incentive to like continue to sort of play and like also then become also sort of inherently interested in the same way that your clap emoji is with regards to meditation. If every time you play the game, you're sort of building out the lore and the universe, the story, then I can become curious about your play more, just as much as I become curious about what happens during my play, because something sort of happens here that gives me a reason to sort of tune in and see like, oh, what happened in Dan's last game? How did that build into the world? And what are the affordances that that sort of offers me? So I don't know. That's a real, very niche, nerdy thing that we just took it in. I'm going to ask Gustavo to come back and tell us what he thought of this rambling conversation about a wide, rambling help request. And thanks once more for stretching the bounds of what we can possibly imagine this structure is good for.
Thank you guys, thank you everyone. Yeah, of course my first impression was if you're okay, Amaya, I'm going to share about what I got from you. Also because of course it's not the first time that I received such kind of an answer. Religion can be a really taboo topic, especially in some kind of environments when you mix that with technology and entrepreneurship and business. It's like, what? No, and this relates to what Dan shared, that is intentional, overwhelming, triggering thing. But I'm trying to deal with that, because from one side, this provocation is kind of my marketing strategy, let's say. Like, yes, just look for people to talk about, because at the end, what I want to build is some kind of collective consciousness about a meme. That yes, and have choose to use the religious meme, basically, because no one else is using that, and it's in my personal background, so is that path for me, let's say. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out what could be that way in being more inclusive with people that maybe are really alien to this subject, while still don't losing I'm not sure if triggering or provocation for just gaining people interest, even if it's an interest that rejects or approve. I still think that interest is valuable for what I'm willing to do. Dan, I agree with you that I didn't present this very well. I'm still trying out a lot of assumptions, and I haven't dealt with a formula to just speak here, let's say, in a really a generical audience, because everyone take this in a different way. So this is something that I do need to think about more deepful. I'm curious about what you mentioned, Dan, from PushPay, probably something in Australia. If you can maybe share a link from that, that will be really appreciated. If not,
Yeah, I'll show a link. They're a public listed company already. They're just basically it's Stripe.
Okay.
It's like Stripe, no, more than Stripe. It's like Shopify for
Okay.
religious organizations. Like you can make a little website, you can take money, and it gives you a basic management portal for managing your membership, which every
Just push
church,
pay.
synagogue, and mosque-
Push pay.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
Thank you.
Jeremy, I heard you about that minimal viable religion, like creating a development path that's kind of created already in the theory. I still need to bring that to practice, I think. And yes, that's also part of what's the last thing that you mentioned about, kind of gamify this, making plays and create, take use of people's curiosity out of the, gamifications that we can do on top of it. What else? Yes, that idea about tokenizing faith, of course, is some idea that I had in mind, but that can be very, I don't know, I see more ways to play with that in a bad way, that for a good way. So it's kind of an idea that I've been putting away, but maybe, I don't know, I should reconsider.
Gustavo,
Yes,
I'm gonna ask
that's
you to
it.
park it for now, and let's see if we got another help request. Thanks for
Thank you.
bringing it in. So does anybody have another design brief to work on? Some question, some design challenge? For some reason, it doesn't seem like I need to say this, but I'm still gonna say it, is it would be great if it was a little bit more tangible than the galactic scale of start a religion. I think by definition, every help request has to be a bit more specific than that.
I've got one, and it's probably a strategic question that other people are having to think about as well.
So dish it.
So, okay, so basically, I'm a businessman. I've owned several companies, and but they've all been selling my time. Like I've been a tradie, a consultant, etc. And next year I start a product company for the first time, and I'm noticing this kind of challenge I have around trying to decide how I prioritize my time in trying to set myself up to grow the business from more of a marketing or selling side of perspective. And so the question I have is, do I focus on just kind of the relational business networking thing that I already can do quite well and I've done, but feels kind of, it's all offline, it's very kind of traveling here, traveling there, meeting people? Or do I try and build these Twitter personas online with followers and trying to kind of digitize, creating a digital network? But the difference is that that kind of thing is not me sitting down with you with a coffee, which I'm really good at. It's like recording videos or doing this, developing a persona, and it kind of takes it into a skill set that I'm not as good at. But I'm trying, I don't know, is that the only way to succeed? Can you start a company without doing that? And so it's more, I think that the question I have for the group is, how do I unpack this to a point where I can make a strategic choice? That's the thing I'm struggling with. How do I break it down? I can try and assess myself, I suppose, but how do I assess which one is more likely to succeed? Skills or capabilities I don't have. I think there's a lot of, my question is almost I feel like there's a big unknown, and I would love for people to make it more like a known unknown for me and name the things that I'm not aware of, which is a big ask, I suppose, but it's a question of strategy, which I feel, I'm hoping that this is the right level of abstraction for a Wise Crowds group.
Clarifying questions. first, let me sort of run a checksum maybe on what I heard. So like our context, the place that your question is sort of happening in is in the space of your entrepreneurship around a product development company, right?
Yes.
And so trying to sort of fill in the blanks. So I've got place, I've got the purpose. I think there's a question as to, does your question have to relate to the purpose of the company or to your purpose in terms of like your role or how to go about it?
Yeah, great question. I think that for me, it's more of a question of how do I prioritize like spend of time and money. So I've got time, my own time, I've got my business partner's time, I've got money in the bank, and I can buy more time, but I'm struggling with a framework of understanding, like at some point I could imagine hiring someone that does marketing and just handing off the responsibility to them. That could be like a year from now, and we have to go through. So I think my question is about, I don't have enough money in the bank to just go and hire someone and make it someone else's problem. It is my problem for now. So, and maybe the answer is, yeah. So sorry, that should be enough clarity.
Yeah. So the question sounds like it's around the prioritization of your time, and you sort of have like this fork in the road around, doing the in-person cultivation or like growth of the product versus like big online persona type thing. So do you do like more of a digital marketing thing, or do you do like a more face-to-face?
Yeah, and maybe the strategic question is that the in-person marketing thing I'm already good at. The digital marketing thing not as good at. So it's kind of like a question of how do you reduce this into a tangible strategic question of, is it just shooting from the hip, or is there a way of actually trying to make a decision here? That's more based on some sort of science, I suppose.
I haven't got it if this is a question about marketing or it's a question about relating the product. I don't think you have explained what the product is, or at least I haven't understand what it is.
I haven't explained the product, but it's a online tool for running processes, automating processes inside of businesses. So human processes. Think of it's like taking paper processes and making them digital and being able to run that inside of a business. So it's essentially an operational tool. But the thing is that I don't necessarily need feedback on the tool. The thing I'm struggling with is I'm looking if the group has any insight into a strategic framework for how you prioritize resourcing, given like market conditions. Like, yes, you could go and say, what are the market conditions? But almost my question is like, I can go and do that, but what's the framework? Or what do I do with that? What is the information I go and look at in the market? Like, what do I need to know about the market? Like the market is, I suppose that's an unfair question. Like the market is any business organization that has a business process, which is it's too generic. I feel like I'm confusing everything now. I thought it was so clear.
Welcome to the hot seat.
Welcome. Now you feel what I was
Amaya.
feeling.
Amaya,
Well,
This
is more tangible question. I feel more related. Also, I'm not into the private business because I work for a humanitarian organization. What I can tell you is that I can see that you try to prioritize between promotion of your business, gaining visibility and reaching out to, the public in general or potential investors, etc. And this face-to-face networking, which still I think that both are key, because regardless of how good you are in, using all kind of social network tools, social
Amaya,
media. Yes.
I'm gonna ask you to narrow the scope. We can give it Dan advice, but right now we're just trying to get clarifying questions from him.
Okay.
Or he can fuck off and you can go now. That's also good too. Like,
It felt like a good fuck off moment.
yeah, okay, go for it. Fuck off, Dan, and then let me not uninterrupt Amaya.
Oh, yes, that was my risk. I didn't want to start making assumptions. Yeah, I think that both are important. The question for you is, you want to know which should you prioritize. My feeling is that, as you said, you feel more comfortable in your relational marketing, face-to-face networking than using other tools to gain that visibility. So I wonder whether no, I cannot come. Sorry, I cannot come with a question right now.
It's okay.
Because
It's okay.
I would advise to go for both, actually,
Okay.
prioritizing. I think that both actions are important for your business.
I do have a very simple question to them. Is it a product that you want to sell in a business to business way, or is more business to customers, or maybe both? This is what you're trying to figure out, or you know that already?
It's both.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's interesting. For me, the simple answer would be face to face, because my sense is like the possibility space is not sufficiently constrained to know who I'm looking for. Like, especially, I mean, always like knowing my audience is really like the killer app. It seems like, who am I trying to get into contact with? And especially online, if that's not like super focused to like a very, 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 very narrow group, then it just sort of falls into the category of all of this noise. And so I would want to use like the higher latency space of in-person to help me figure out as much as I can about who exactly am I trying to like broadcast and get a hold of across the world. And I feel like it's so hard to get people to pay attention. It's easier to do that in like person to person. Like, if Dan shows up and starts like glad handling people, then like they will pay attention, and then he can like sort of parlay that in-personness into getting a whole bunch of information that helps them figure out like who is the archetype, or what is the profile of very specific challenge that my product solves, that is willing to pay, right? That teeny tiny subgroup right now, while it's still in its infancy. But then the bigger question that he asked, which is like, what is the frame within which like that strategic evaluation of how to prioritize time versus what I would describe as going narrow and going broad. That I have less of a feel for. Anybody else?
I have something, yes. I think that the main thing he needs to understand precisely is what are the pain points of these possible customers. What is the problem that Dan is trying to solve with this product? Because from one side is what Dan thinks about what the problem is, and for the other side is what the final users actually are experiencing or relating to that specific problem. I think if he can do some research face to face or polls or some kind of market investigations about how people relate with that problem, then just after that he will start like developing the language and the channels in that will be the more suitable for him to put that product into market, and that will of course help him to prioritize and to make the proper decisions on that.
I think that he's aware that both approaches are important, but he also knows that he will not be able to do it on his own. That's why he needs to prioritize. For me, it's amazing that you guys are, again, as entrepreneur, are able to come up with a project on your own and are capable of playing all these roles at once. So I think that they are, rather than for prioritizing, he realizes that he doesn't have enough time on his own to run the business on his own. So I don't know whether he could think in terms of partnering with someone else, or that could help, or engaging someone to help him with the marketing or with other functions where he feels less skill or experience, and that could help him maybe to cover those aspects.
Yeah, in my ways, once that he take the proper priority, or maybe not the proper, but when he take decisions on what the priorities are, and then he will make a checkup. Okay, what resources do I have? Am I the proper one to do this in the best way as possible because my own capabilities, my own context about this project, or maybe, hey, I discover, maybe in this process of discovery about the problems, he will say, hey, probably the best channel to do this is through Instagram and making some kind of influencers and stuff, and then he will delegate. But first, it's a process about understanding what are the more clear pain point of the markets, and then he will say, well, this, and that. And then you start to make assumptions based on that information that you gather from the markets, and you take your decisions, and good or bad, at some point you need to take the decisions to launch a product into market. So based on that, he will plan his resources. Is he himself or is a consultant or whatever? There is still some work to be done before going there. This is what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I have not a shit ton of experience, but every time I've talked to somebody about fucking marketing, they always ask me, like, so who are you trying to talk to? Like, they're always like very irritating about that, knowing who the audience is. And so, until I've got that sort of like laser focused and I can like sort of shake it off, like either you're going to hire somebody and they're just going to like irritate you with a bunch of questions that you're not prepared to answer quite yet, or you got to like spend the sweat equity, I would say, to try and understand who exactly I'm trying to get a hold of, and then maybe it can sort of flow from there. But I keep wanting to come back to this like the meta of the question. And so, I fucked around with this adaptive strategy cannot working thing, which doesn't quite include the question of who, that is the target audience. But what it does is it asks me to continuously explore like a set of 6 questions. One of the questions is around purpose. Another question is around context, what's happening around us that requires creative change. Another question is around baseline, where are we starting actually? Another question is around challenge, like what is the thing that we're up against that's not going so well. And then I think the last questions have to do with more around like based on all that shit, where are we where are we starting now currently? And you know, based on where we're at, what seems possible and blah blah blah. After possibility being I don't know. There's another question. Dan, you got something to say? Or Edwin has something to say. Where you at, Edwin?
Yeah, sure. I was also trying to think of on where I should prioritize, and I was thinking on I think you should also prioritize his normal marketing strategy, that is the face-to-face, and the audience has been all in line with his business because it's familiar to those guys, and also, you know, face-to-face is a better way of, it's one of the best way people do a lot of marketing, and always clients have a lot of confidence and trust that they are really seeing the real thing, and also the real product, and it will help him to get referrals, actually, to expand on his market. And also maybe on times on online, like for example, like what number of what capacity of the audience does he have according to online, and which platforms is he most likely to use, because he might choose the platforms whereby people are not used to those platforms. So that's why I think you should first select on those things, also concentrate more or better more on face-to-face, his common audience, because it will really help him market his product and also get referrals. I think, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwin. There's something as well, I think that sounds like wisdom, which is like proceeding at the pace of trust, right? So while things are the sort of squishiest, you have the least amount of product to show, then like where my personal equity is the greatest is going to offer me like the most optionality. So as we are coming close to time, I would invite Dan to come back in and tell us what he thought of the conversation, and or mostly what he's able to take away and perhaps do something with.
Hey, that was really interesting. I can't turn on my video, Jeremy, so you're gonna have to do it. Yep, great, thank you. Thanks everyone, that was super interesting. I think my key takeaways were that kind of better the devil you know. Like if you're good in person, then just do it. I think that was one of my key takeaways. I think and the other one was that, yeah, like without that, going to the market and really understanding the market kind of tells you where everyone is, or tells you what platforms people are on, and then you can decide whether you like the question is you know, am I the right person to go make TikTok videos? Probably not. Am I the right person to write blogs on LinkedIn? Yes. So like understanding better the market will actually lead to a more informed decision. And I think the other key takeaway I had there was that, yeah, that like the question of, yeah, I think it's that answering and it was kind of getting to the framework level thinking of that without more constraints, it's too hard to kind of make a decision on whether it's more productive for me to pay someone else to do it, or whether it's more productive for me to do it. So I think my takeaway from that was, yeah, that until you have that clarity, which involves doing market research, you can't really make that kind of hiring decision. And I think that the last thing that came up for me was that it's actually probably just like a really basic risk assessment of how much money do I have and how much time would it take for me to learn to do something. So like, let's assume that I could learn how to do TikTok videos really well. How much time would it take for me to get to that point? Versus, and like how much do I value my own time? And what is the risk that even if I put 50 hours in, maybe I'm still a shit TikToker. So there's a risk there as well. Whereas if I can hire someone that's already a good TikToker, like that feels like a better use of resource or limited resource. So yeah, I think my takeaway there was, yeah, you need to be able to understand better the the objective, like, yeah, the market, the objective, in order to make that hiring or prioritization call. Because it's not really a priority call, it's actually like a roles question. Like, it doesn't really matter if it's me or someone else. I was maybe artificially constraining it by saying it was me, but yeah, that was super helpful.
Dope. I was just watching, as you described this, I was just watching this video on this framework around software development naturally. And this guy described a 5x5 matrix about as an alternative to product estimations. And he basically said, all right, what's the it's always the cost benefit analysis, right? But how to dumb that down in such a way that it became sort of obvious. And he basically said, what's the cost in terms of a qualitative description of cost? Like, is it going to cost as much of a beer? Is it going to cost as much of a holiday? Is it going to cost as much of a month's salary? Or is it going to cost as much as a car or as much as a house? And then flipping that on the benefit side as well. So you've got this 5x5, that is, just these sort of logarithmic scale. So it's like beer, holiday, month salary, or car or house, right? And basically, obviously the simple fucking obvious things that are, cost as much of a beer and deliver as much value as a house, you do those automatically, go for it. But the middle portion, and of course the things that are super expensive that, don't do much, you never do. But the middle portion he described as learn more. And I think that's yeah, learn more about those things. Like, you don't commit to them, but figure out a way that you can discover more information so that you can better make that choice about, okay, now we're going to go for it, and now we're going to dump it. But at any rate, what I would like to do, especially for Amaya, so you mentioned in our one-on-one that you were new to liberating structures. You've now experienced these two liberating structures, being impromptu networking, the series of one-on-ones, and two very different examples of the same basic structure, which is Wise Crowds, which also rhymes with Troika Consulting if you look on the Liberating Structures website. If you think about these structures, what did they help us do in the context of this call? Like, what did you notice that they helped make possible? And the second question is, where might you be able to use them?
No, it was great to have this free consultation with people coming from different backgrounds, and interesting that the client was able to always have some takeaways in the end, one way or another, or at least he was able to reach out his own conclusions, help or confirmed by some of the comments that some of the consultants made. So I think that it allows, it allows a lot of brainstorming, without prejudices, without fears, without being an expert or whatsoever. There is always something that the person can take in the end out of it. So in which type of situations, to respond to your second question, when there is a concrete challenge, and we need feedback from colleagues, this is something that for which this technique would be very useful.
Awesome. You mentioned the context of training was particular for you. I think in the context of training as well, this is interesting. Like, there's a difference between, if I think about like a class context and going, oh, teacher, I have a question. Can you explain this to me? And rather than providing the answer to say, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you through this process where the other students within the class, your peers, can offer ideas, information, and insight and help answer the question for them. To clarify both what it is, their point of confusion, and then to offer what they know and empower them to share their knowledge. So thanks. This is the Wisecrowd's design call. I thank you guys for hanging out, for your time, attention, and energy. We'll be doing this next Monday as well. And we hope to see you then.
Thank you, guys. Goodbye.
Safe travels.
Hey, Jeremy,
Yes.
what was
Thank
that
you,
5
bye.
by what was the 5x5 grid thing called?
Fine. I'm sure it's in my YouTube history. I'm for sure. Let me send you the video itself. That'll be probably the fastest. Why software estimations are always wrong. But continuous delivery is the challenge. I like that guy. He's just an OG, like software development nerd who's been doing the thing for forever. He's just talking about different product, which I love. Here's the video. I'll send it to you on the Telegram. Oh, all right. Time for dinner. See you around.
Yeah, bro. Thank you.